So if you saw the preview of the first scene, that was pretty good, but it doesn't give you the slightest idea of just how good this show is. We'll talk about it in a second. Hello out there, I'm the oldest nerd. That Hope Is You Part 1. That's the name of this episode of Star Trek Discovery, Episode 1, Season 3. The year is 3188, and we open up with an odd thing where it shows a guy get out of bed, his bed dissolves, he goes into a room where a desk assembles itself, and he sits down. And evidently, that's all this guy does. They don't tell you who he is or what he's for. He's nicely dressed, but he obviously is by himself. Then we cut to Michael Burnham, who has come through the wormhole at the time that a ship is being pursued by another ship through a junkyard of ship parts. And she collides with the ship that's being pursued. It causes both her and the ship to crash land on this planet. We've seen this already in the preview that we've seen before. But what we find out from there is that the pilot of the ship that she hits is a man by the name of Cleveland Booker, calls himself Book, and has some things that we can't quite discern about him at first, whether he's a good guy or a bad guy, whether he is human or not, whether he has some kind of special powers or not, and what about the cargo that he has. All of this, he is gradually revealing to Michael, who finds him after she crash lands and sees where his crash site is. She goes, he considers her hostile at first. They make some kind of truce because she's got something to trade in which he can get more dilithium for the reactor of his ship. As it turns out, they explain very quickly what the burn is, which we've heard about for quite some time now. This is what brought pretty much the Federation as we knew it to a halt, or at least to a much less prominent institution. It had to do with most of the dilithium in the galaxy blowing up. Or as Book said, most of the dilithium went boom 120 years ago, 100 or 120 years ago. And so now it's very difficult to obtain and expensive, and he needs more. He only gets enough to make short trips, and so he has to trade for it. And so on this planet that they land, which is not Terralesium, they go into a city in order to go to an exchange where they can find some dilithium and trade for it. And in the meantime, Michael wants to be able to get to a communications array so she can contact Discovery, where she does not know what has happened to it. The city itself reminds me a little of Blade Runner, the holographic billboards, the collection of people, the rather aged and rusted look of everything. And it is in this city that we find Andorians and Orions and Lorians and other aliens that are all there for purposes of trade. And they are going to attempt to trade some of Burnham's equipment for what they need. Now, of course, it all breaks down into a fight. There's a lot of action through this whole thing. And without just going scene by scene through here, let's just say that the fight scenes are believable. They are somewhat violent, but not without reason. We see some of their new technology, things that Burnham does not suspect, and without knowing that she's a time traveler, Book is kind of confused that she doesn't have any knowledge of much of the recent galactic history. And other people who have encountered her have the same kind of thing. So this is a kind of the mystery that Book and this new 3188 year are to us, Michael Burnham is kind of to them. We know that the Federation exists beyond this year due to events that happened in Deep Space Nine, but the temporal wars that prevented time travel from happening afterwards make her being a time traveler kind of an oddity. To a new alien, which they call a transworm. It looks to me like a big killer shrimp. We have a cat. Not the first time a cat has been in Starfleet, but perhaps the size of this cat has not been seen in a Star Trek episode before, so that's kind of interesting. The cat's name is Grudge. He calls her that because it's a heavy load. So it's there's a good deal of humor in much of this. Burnham is delighted to have gotten through the wormhole alive, and she is treated with a truth drug that causes her to be rather giddy, but she's still able to hold her own. And you start getting an indication that she and Book are going to get along pretty well until Book actually takes her to somebody that can help her. And that is the man that we saw in the first scene, who is one of the remnants of the Federation. He's been alone manning an outpost for 40 years, and he sees her, the first Starfleet person that he's seen. And it's a very touching moment. It's very emotional, and this is when we see the flag unfurled that's been shown in the previews. And we got a lot of questions answered in this episode. We don't see Discovery yet. They are no doubt coming in part 2, but we've established this new world, which is most impressively built. They did not spare any expense with their special effects or their travel budget. It was filmed in Iceland, and therefore there was a lot of terrain that does not look very familiar to most of us. And so with that, there's great production values. The acting is wonderful. We really do like Cleveland Booker. David Ajay, who plays the part, is perfect for it. And we see enough to see that it's still the Star Trek universe, but it projects into the future some new ways of things being done, and it's in decay in most of the places that we see so far. A couple of funny lines. Book is cornered by other people demanding the code to his ship, and he gives it away, Sticky, and they say, "Sticky?" And he said, "That's my code. Pick your own code for your own ship." And I thought that was a very good line. Book himself is some kind of shaman or healer or something. He has a certain kind of talent when it comes to living things, plants and animals, and he is somewhat of a conservationist. So he is not far from the Federation ideals. He's just not as knowledgeable about them as Burnham is. And he seems to respect the fact that Burnham considers herself now on a mission to find out what happened to the Federation and how it can be reassembled. It's a big job to do, obviously, just to even find where they all are. But it looks like it's going to make a rather interesting story arc this year. So we have a few questions answered, and we have a few questions left, and we have quite an adventure ahead of us. I had to watch parts of it twice to see if it had the same effect on me, and it did. It's a very powerful performance and production in the first episode. If the rest of them are this good, this is going to be a season for the record books. So I'd like to know what you think. Please put it down in the comments, and please subscribe. My subscribers haven't been increasing lately, and I think that that's wrong. We should get some more subscribers here and get some more discussion going on about these shows. I think they'll be well worth it. It'll be well worth seeing and well worth talking about. Also, ring the bell so you know when the next video is coming your way. There's going to be 13 episodes of Star Trek Discovery Season 3. The Mandalorian starts at the end of this month. We'll be reviewing that as well. So we're going to have a lot of material to talk about, and we hope that you'll be around for it. So please do subscribe. And until the next time, don't go far.